In this video, you're gonna learn the uncomfortable truth of why success can still feel empty. You did everything you were supposed to. You built the company, you hit the milestones, and yet when the noise dies down, it can still feel empty. And you might be wondering why. Hi, my name is Kosha Granchad, and I am an owner of a 7-figure law practice. I love to share my insights of what I've learned over the last 23 years in building my business. And in this video, we are going to talk about this uncomfortable truth and what you can do about it if you've hit the top, but you still feel like things are meaningless. If you've hit midlife, you've hit a feeling of success, this is when it can hit the hardest. The reason is because the trade-offs are visible now. To reach that level of success, it could have meant missed dinners, milestones you can't really redo in life, and the highs are fading faster every year. The most thing people miss is this could be part of living or design a life that you didn't create, that you just fell into. In this video, I'm going to walk you through a practical 3-step process to redefine success so it actually feels good. There's a counterintuitive scorecard shift coming up. Stops the chase and brings your life back into alignment. Now let's deep dive into why success, first of all, can feel empty at midlife. Let me be blunt, the growth, the success actually creates a mask of what's really going on in the inside. And sometimes, for many of us, the grind, the hustle is a distraction to see what's really going on. And the compounding trade-offs start to catch up. Not being present at dinners, if you are even there, thinking about, okay, what's going on? I gotta make payroll. This employee has this HR issue. This one's not coming to work. And all of the other issues of running a business. This possibly leading to friction with your partner, maybe skipping your self-care routine, like your daily meditation practice or exercise routine. Through it all, you're still performing, but it's overpowered more by obligation than rather something that what you want from the inside. And that's where the emptiness can start to click in. This pattern shows up widely, and founders report high rates of chronic stress and burnout symptoms according to the SBA in a 2023 article. Now here's the treadmill. You grind, you crush it, then you get a feeling of relief, and it lasts what? For maybe a few hours, maybe a few days, maybe even a month. But then it's back to the treadmill because that feeling doesn't last. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with ambition, but let's look at what the cost of that hustle culture that we've been taught has done if we don't look at what is also important to us besides just hustling and the grinding. Now, I'm one that loves to work, and it does create a lot of fulfillment, but at the same time, that as I've gotten older and hit midlife, I realized that that does feel empty without being present with what values are important to me. And then we're going to deep dive in how to integrate that into your life in this video. The problem comes from chasing goals that we ultimately may have not chosen, that may have been handed to us by our family or from society, and then leaving what's truly important to us behind. The good news is that if your scorecard is borrowed status scale more, you can win and still feel a quiet ache that says, this isn't mine. One of the best pieces that I got was from my entrepreneurs organization group and for my fellow entrepreneurs, talking about the struggle between family and being able to also be present at home and spend time with my son, and feeling like those two were competing. And the best piece of advice was that this time with your family, this time with your son, you never get that back. You can always hit the revenue goal. You can always hit the revenue target. What I found is they're not necessarily competing, because after a certain point of time, my brain does go a little bit numb and I'm not able to work at the sharp ability that I am after maybe 8-10 hours in the day. So what it allows me to also do is recharge my batteries and come back fresh. And even if you do lose a bit of productivity, what you gain from the juice that you get from prioritizing your values first outweighs the financial gains that you might have gotten. Research on high-achieving professionals show that long hours and constant availability erode family time and relationship quality with downstream effects on well-being, according to a study done by the OECD in 2021. Now, here's where most people mess up, is fixing emptiness by setting another goal. That is the default for us as high achievers. Achieve, and it gives you that like great dopamine feeling. But the problem is that still borrowed, that feeling of success is still borrowed, so you're still running an operating system that doesn't work when you do that. Before you adjust the throttle, check the destination. If the game feels wrong, the first question isn't, how do I go faster? It's, do I want the goal that I'm even chasing? I, for instance, jumped into a career, jumped into a whole business, jumped into what I thought success was based off of the template of success that society gives us. But is that template something that we all necessarily want? Yes, we all need to have a foundation of success. We all need to have a foundation of security, and financial success does feel great. But then what about success after you've reached that foundation? And that is the question really to ask yourself, that I ask of myself constantly, to be able to really make sure that I'm in alignment. Is this really where you want to be in life? If you're not sure if this is you, you can check in with your body. Your body will tell you when your energy dips, and when you think about work, you might procrastinate on what should excite you, and the winds will feel thin. That is misalignment. But when you align your goals and your values, you're going to be in a feeling of flow. So let's look about how do you do that? And I'm going to give you a process for that. What to do is actually quite simple. Run a desire audit to separate your wants from your market or status wants. Then do a values audit so your goals can attach to something real. I'm going to give you a shortcut here that very few people teach. Values only help you if you define how they show up weekly. So you might have been taught this, you might have been taught about even your core values in your business, or values important, but how do you integrate that? And especially, how do you integrate that into your daily life? First, pick your top 5 values. It might be health, it might be presence. If you integrate it into your life, presence could show up as not having phones 2 nights a week at dinner time. Health could show up as 4 45-minute workouts. Mastery could show up as 1 deep work time without interruptions daily. And service could show up as mentoring another startup founder. Freedom shows up as having a day to yourself as the CEO with no interruptions, no meetings, no sales, just you visioning the business, being present with the business, and allowing yourself to be back to a beginner's mind to create from anew. Next, the goal fit test. List your current goals. For instance, scaling to 10 million, launching a new product, doubling the team, exiting in 24 months. These could all be great goals, but you gotta look at how does that fit into you. So list that from 1 to 10, give it a 1 to 10 for each of those. You weigh that against your top values. If a goal conflicts with 2 or more top values, that is a red flag. Now, low alignment doesn't mean you throw it out. It's just something to be aware of, to be mindful of, and it might just mean that you need to redesign that goal. Let's look at how this could work with an example. A founder realized that health was one of their top values, that presence was one of their top values. So their exit in 18 months scored a 2 on both of those. So they replaced that with a 20% client reduction, 15% margin increase, 4 afternoons off per week, and revenue stayed stable, energy and family time spiked, and creativity returned. Now, common mistakes here. You can confuse excitement with alignment. Launching a project, a venture can be deceptive because it gives you that initial hit and excitement of doing something new. The other mistake is scoring aspirationally, not honesty. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Your values are not posters, they're weekly behaviors you can track. Now we're gonna go a little bit deeper into this rabbit hole and asking an uncomfortable question that may be hard to answer at first, but once you're honest with yourself, it's going to be truly liberating. Was I doing what society told me? Once you clear your misaligned goals, you'll realize something much deeper. Were you running a default script that wasn't yours, but you took on because you thought that was the right thing to do? What does that look like? More revenue, bigger team because that looks good, always being on. Now, there's nothing wrong with any of that if that's what you want. But What is wrong is that you never chose that. If you didn't want a team of 20 people, you just wanted to have a team of 1 person or 2 people, or maybe no team at all, then that's a problem. Or maybe doubling the revenue, you didn't want that because you were happy with the revenue that you had and you didn't want the additional complexity that came with that. There is no wrong or right answer. The answer is what's in alignment with what you want, what your values are, and what you're willing to sacrifice for that goal, and is that goal in alignment with the values that you created. So let's deprogram. First, script spotting. Let's ask ourselves 2 questions. For every pressure you feel, who benefits if you do this? And would I still want that with 0 applause? If the honest answer is peers, social media, and not you and your family, you found a borrowed line of code. Don't judge it, just flag it. Now here's the exciting part. Now let's design. Let's use a narrative rewrite. Finish this sentence 5 times. I am the kind of person who, and tie each sentence to a top value. For example, I'm the kind of person who protects 2 no phone dinners a week, who runs a calm, margin-rich business, who leaves slack in the calendars to think, one of my favorite ones. It's so nice to have thinking time. Who mentors 1 founder weekly. This reclaims your identity from titles and puts it into behaviors. Then turn it into an experiment. Let's look at a 90-day experiment. Not a life overhaul, a small, measurable, reversible bet that lives in the real world. Pick 1 value-led shift, 2 no phone dinners a week, 1 CE to owner day weekly, reduce client load by 20% to reclaim afternoon. Create your value success metrics. We put metrics in our business, but what about our values and how do we measure those? You can put metrics for those. This could be dinners completed, meetings declined, afternoons protected, subjective energy score logged weekly. You're not torching your business, you're testing a better operating model. Now here's where people mess up. They go all in, then they bounce. Or they don't find success, so they don't progress. Or they quit at week 3 before the compounding effect actually kicks in. Don't do that. Predefine your metrics. Make the experiment small. Run it for the full 90 days. Once you nail that, everything else clicks because you're no longer taking orders from a script you didn't write. Now, I want you to try that. Let me know in the comments what your results are. And we're going to be talking about the final step in this process for your fulfillment operating system in the next video. So make sure you subscribe and get notifications to get the update for the next video that wraps and ties this all together, and continue try doing this 90-day experiment and let me know what shifts for you.